Welcome back to the True Beast Podcast, the hottest podcast in the bully game, where we bring you value, we bring you knowledge, and you lead a drama with your mama. I'm your host, Zak Valentine, and you're now tuned in to Season 2, Episode 2 of Muscle Bullies. Boy, we in here. It's Monday. We're kicking this thing off. Y'all know the deal. If you got questions, leave your questions in the question mark at the bottom of the screen. Get you entered in the wheel. Get the questions answered. Get my co-host in here. Everybody's having an amazing day today. For those of y'all that's tuning in for the first time, this is the True Beast Podcast.
What's up?
How we doing?
Oh, good. Trying to decide if this mic is too loud.
Nah,
Am I good?
Good.
Okay, cool.
I just realized I didn't have mine hooked up.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I did the whole intro without my mic hooked up.
Nice.
It's all good.
Where's Mr. Stan at?
He is
Coming in.
Boom.
Coming in.
There we go.
First of all, let me just say, who does an intro without double checking that their mic is not turned on? That's all I'm going to say.
You got to give him a break. He had to take a day off. He's a little rusty.
I mean, he took an episode off. So, hey, everybody, let's just talk about this right now. We want to welcome Zach into the new year because he wasn't able to make it the first episode. So me and Roger had to definitely hold that down. So I appreciate Roger definitely showing up for the first episode of 2023. And
Man,
Zach,
I appreciate it.
Great to have you back.
I really appreciate it. That was such a welcome.
Yeah, that's right.
Very welcoming. How's everybody doing, man?
Oh, can't complain.
Well, I mean, let's just go ahead and just jump into this, 2023. Can we just admit that hasn't been a great start for the Bulls?
Yes. So
just asked the question, bailed out.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely been a lot going on. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I think it comes with winter. It just seems like winter people are more on edge, right? Because they're not
cold.
getting out doing that, and they're just not getting out doing like the shit they normally do.
It's all
not
bent
going
up
to shows and all that. Yeah, so people just get on edge. I mean, I've been in a bunch of different communities, and they're all like that. In the wintertime, in the car community, guys are fighting all winter, and then in summer they get their cars out again, and everyone's happy. So I don't think it's anything more than the normal, kind of wintertime stuff.
Is my boy froze down there?
Is he?
He did freeze.
He's gone on me. But I want to see if anybody complains that we're blurry. Oh, there he's back.
There we go.
I want to see if anybody complains that we're blurry, because I suspect because I was home and I was on that slower connection, it was actually slowing everybody down. That way, audio would stay synced up.
Gotcha.
So we may not have that problem now.
So I asked a question. I got kicked out.
Yeah, we got you.
Am I even on?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, cool. I can't hear you guys early in my headphones. But so there was a new, I guess, banner that was posted up in the ABKC about, I guess, silhouettes of what they're keeping and what they're getting rid of. What was your take on that? I think it was by I don't really like saying anybody's name, but does it seem like they're getting rid of the classics?
I don't think they're getting rid of them, but I think, and really what they posted, the silhouette, I don't think, that's just more of a clarification. I think that's what they wanted all along. Just some people, for some reason, aren't clear on it. So they just keep posting the silhouette so people can be like, okay, this is what the American Bully should look like.
It didn't really look any different than the last one.
No.
That's what it was like. Why is everybody freaking out? But I think, like you said, it's because they didn't actually have the word classic on the list.
Right.
It just said Pocket Standard XL. So I think all the people, Yeah, if you go look at it, it doesn't say classic on the thing. So I think that's what really like stirred it up, because people were like, wait a minute, where's classic? Why is classic not on the list?
Right. Well, that makes sense because the classic isn't supposed to look like that silhouette, right?
Yeah.
It has a more terrier style muzzle and less bone. So you can't put that silhouette up and say, hey, the classic should look like this, because then it would just be a standard.
So, what are your guys' thoughts on those who have invested so much time and energy in the classic class and saying, hey, we want to be the best representative of the classic class, and all of a sudden it's like, we're going to take this away?
I don't think they're trying to take it away from them necessarily, but, I made a post earlier this week, and there were more classic-related questions, and you could tell by the responses there are people that purposely breed classics, and that's what they want to breed. They don't have a classic by accident, and they want to breed it and make it a standard. There are people that purposely breed classics, and that's what they want to do. It's the older style dog, and some people don't want to change. That's, whatever they want to do, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel like the classic is going to save the breed, though? Because, we'll get more into that. Matter of fact, I got a question to ask you guys. Let's just grade this, right? Let's just do a standard school grading level of 1 through 100. A plus through F minus, right? I guess 1 through 100. And what would you grade the current state of the American Bully today in the community, and
now
why?
You're saying like overall state,
the overall state of it. The health, the culture, everything as a whole. What would you grade it as? Do you think it's a C level, B level, A level? Like just an honest opinion, because we're really honest about this stuff.
No, I think the communities. I think like any kind of like what they call crowdsourced kind of community. The community can be toxic at times, and that kind of makes it rough. But no, I think overall, if you look at the breed in the last year or so, it's making huge strides to be closer to the standard, and I think that's an incredibly good thing. The closer we get to that standard, the more critical some people will be, obviously, because you're going to push the limits of what the dog can be. Then I don't know. Some people just don't like. Some people think inherently that if a dog is standard, if it has a lot of mass and bone, it's just like inherently unhealthy, which isn't the case. But I don't know. They just have that feeling that, if a dog is big and it's heavy, it must be unhealthy.
Yeah. Before you answer, Zach, we want to know what you guys grade the community as. So if you're listening right now, put what you grade in the question box, what you grade the community as, and why you grade it that way. We'll read those off.
So it's the ABCD thing, kind of.
Yeah, just like we'll do it basic school standard.
I'm going to give it.
An entrepreneur.
I don't know. I think I'll give it a C at this point. I think we're getting there. What I mean?
Wow.
For me to say A, A would be like everything's spot on. You know what I mean? So I think it's fair.
Yeah. And what would
B is like for you? The dogs are starting to look pretty cookie cutter in the ring. We get the standard class, and the only real difference we're seeing in the dogs in the standard class is color, for the most part. Little flaw here on this dog, little flaw there on this dog. But if you take a 50-foot approach at the ring, they all look the same.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Valentine, what do you grade them? Honest opinion, no bias.
Z. We're giving
overall.
Them a Z. Just straight up Z, bro. Fucking Z.
Is there a Z?
It was.
Yeah. Damn, you just are mad at community.
No, I was kind of in the same range with Roger. He said C. I was thinking like B minus. And it's really just everybody just really is on different pages, I think. And that's what creates so much animosity, so much diversity, so much picking and choosing. It's just all over the place right now as far as what everybody sees it as, or whatever the case may be. As far as the classic situation, like Roger said, there's a handful of people that enjoy that style of dog. The more terrier, healthier, running, structure good, everything. They like that style of bully, so they're still going to breed the classic. But then you got the people that, like we distinguished, that were sold a dog that they thought was going to be a pocket or they thought was going to be a standard, and it ended up being a classic. And I feel like majority of those people are striving to better, like push more towards what the standard actually is.
Right.
But like the biggest problem in the ring with that, like that's where it always goes back to, is like there's always this turmoil in the ring because the classic people feel like they don't have a shot in the dark, right? I personally feel like if we do keep the classic, why don't we just let the classics battle theirself? Like classics show in there, you know what I'm saying? Like instead of a classic going up against standards or whatever the case may be, which you only see that in the champion class, but it's like a classic will never be the standard because it's never going to have that mass or that type because it's not meant to. It's a classic. So it's like people need to understand that fine line.
Well, then stop right there if you don't mind me stopping you. So then does that mean like XLs don't have a chance either? And then why are people breeding XLs and why are people breeding classics? Like they don't have a shot in the dark is what you're saying.
The difference is
unless it's a standard.
The XL is expected to have that type.
Yeah.
The classic is not expected to have that type.
Yeah.
Interesting. So people should, if you're breeding classics, should they just bail out?
Their preference.
Just keep doing what you do.
You just can't be mad when you come to the ring and you lose to type because that's what they want.
What place do
here's
they
the
have
thing,
though
though,
in the
there's
community?
been classics like what was his name? Champion Diesel, not too long, rest in peace. He came through.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a classic dog and he was doing his thing. He was beating standards and pockets.
What?
Yeah. He passed away. So, no, that was
When
he
was
just
that,
died
though?
like
what year
4
was
or
that?
5, 6 months ago, something like that.
Right.
Not long ago. Yeah.
And as far as
recent.
as far as competition goes, and especially in the champion class, if you have a classic that represents the classic class better than that standard represents the standard class, and that dog will win because he represents his class the best. But I think the question is dogs that have more classic or more terrier features and they still remain in the standard class. Those are the dogs that, people get upset because they see that dog and they say this dog has really good structure and movement because it moves like a terrier. But the problem is the standard doesn't call for the dog to move like a terrier. The dog should move like a bodybuilder, not a gymnast.
Let's just talk like this then. Let's say a classic meets all the standard to a T, right? Like it just to a T and just maybe a little bit better. But then you have a standard, but it has an outstanding flaw that you guys can see. You know what I mean? Like where do you go as a judge, or what would you think the ABKC should do on that?
Zach, roll with
it. I'm just saying. I'm asking.
I can't really answer it from a judge's perspective because I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not on their level as far as breaking a dog down like that. So it's like, and then you gotta realize a lot of judges look at shit a different way. Like when Toy Soldier was on, he said he doesn't look at the flaws in the dog when he's judging. He looks at the attributes and he makes his decision from the attributes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. When a classic has 0 flaws, all the attributes shouldn't be up for the national championship.
And that's one of the reasons why we
see a lot of arguments and debates too. Because
why we need to bring judges on and ask them exactly that question.
It's judge's preference. Well, I mean,
I'm glad you said that.
If you were driving
I'm
toward
glad
that,
you said that.
Just opened with that.
Yeah. As much as it doesn't seem like it, they're judging the dog by a standard. But we're all human. In order for me to pick something to win out of a selection, it has to be something that I kind of have a like to. So that's where it comes into play, right?
Yeah.
Preference.
Interesting. Listen,
so it's bias.
Bully
Judging
Supplies
could be possibly biased.
Bully Supplies jumped in the comments, which is co-president says classics
read that off.
have an equal opportunity to win. If the classic is exceptional, it wins just like any other dog. In reality, there are just as many
Perfect.
poor classics as there are any other variety.
Facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to know. That exactly. That's
Yeah.
so it's a
We
level
appreciate the
playing
comment.
field.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I mean, like I said, there's classic. My bitch. I mean, she's classic. She would go out and she would beat standard females and pocket. You know what I'm saying? All of the above, but it comes to a point where you're gonna go up against a judge that likes a more breed type, bigger dog, and he's gonna look at your classic and he's gonna look at the bigger dog and he's gonna be like, "Hey, this is my choice." But
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
still gonna judge the two dogs to the standard. Is what you're hoping for, right? Like you're hoping that he's bringing that integrity to the table to be like, this and that. But I think, I don't know. I don't really see what the argument is at the end of the day. Like the only way you can stop arguing about the classic, in my opinion, and people bitching about it is to fucking remove it from the ring. So therefore, there can be
There's
no
no more
argument about
argument.
it. Yeah,
Right.
because either way, it's gonna go left or it's gonna go right, depending on who's got the fucking stick.
Well, we see this.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Before you go, Roger, I want to bring it back. Did you
Do
not hear that he
jogs?
said
Oh
two
my
jogs?
god,
What are
The
jogs?
pretzel
Yeah, what are
jogs.
jogs?
you trying to
I just want to
depress
know.
me first
What are
off
the
the
two
rip,
jogs?
aren't you?
What
Being
are-
a dick.
Now,
All
one
right.
other factor,
Go
and
ahead,
again,
Roger.
when we get to the point where we get the judges, and if you have a message from us in your inbox, please get back to us. We'd love to have you guys on because we need to answer these questions for the community. But one of the things that they
Yes.
say, I hear ABKC say a lot, is move the breed forward. Right? They want to. They want to pick a dog that moves the breed forward. That won't be a classic.
Okay.
The classic doesn't move the breed forward.
Yeah.
So that's the question we would ask: is even if the dog is superior, it is a superior classic. But then the other argument, yeah, we're working on that Hilltop for sure. The other argument is that the standard shouldn't lack to the standard dog. It
They should look
should
like
just
a
be
fucking
ripped
gaff
like
dog.
the
Let's just be
standard.
real. Like
It just should have more terrier features. So it shouldn't have the bone. It shouldn't have the muzzle that the standard does. But it still should be a dog of extreme nature.
Yeah.
And let's just be clear, audience. We are bringing on some judges. Actually, Roger has been working diligently today. Trust me, I know because I'm in every group message. And we got some pretty badass judges. Now, when they come on, be respectful. You know what I mean? Like, understand that this is an opportunity for us all to grow. And we are value driven. Yeah, I am kind of like digging a little bit tonight, but at the same time, it's important that we have these conversations. We have these hard conversations, and we put it out there because I really want to know from the outside looking in. I mean, you can look at Roger's yard and you're like, hey, the majority of those are classics.
But that in essence is what it is because they have the training. They know what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Lots of times people stand on the outside of the ring and they pass judgment on the judges based on the decisions they make. So for me, I was like, well, why don't we just bring judges in? We'll ask them their judging process because as far as I know, they're not handed a how-to book, right? They're taught on the structure of the dog and what the dog should look like and what the mass and bone should look like.
Yeah.
But they're left to make their own decisions and how to process, that. So some may look at a dog and put it to the eye test first and say, okay, does this dog look like an American Bully? And if it doesn't, they may just dismiss it altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Where some people will look at the entire dog. So not only the mass and bone, but the structure and the movement and judge all that as one piece, where some will just look at the dog first and say, okay, if it's a bully, then I'll judge it against the standard. So,
yeah.
I think Zach talked about it with us multiple times. Is sometimes you got to take a step back to move forward, And I mean, that's in life in general. Sometimes you have to make these hard decisions and go, okay, in order to move forward, we might have to take a few steps back. And we're going to have to put up with some crazy shit and deal with some controversial stuff. And it's going to bring on more challenges. But for the better of the vision,
Yeah.
you know, you got to do something like
then
that.
believe me, I'm not saying because I have classics. I mean, there is a need for the classic. You know what I mean? When you push the limits too far, then that classic is what saves you. You breed it back to that classic. It cleans you up a little bit. You may lose a little bit of type, but that bitch will clean you up, and then you can begin to push again. So the dog is valuable, like regardless. Even if it wasn't showing in the ring, the dog needs to exist for now. Now, when there are enough standards that are clean, if there are enough standards that move the way they're supposed to, you know, when we have enough of that, then we can say, okay, we don't need the classic anymore.
Yeah, that's gonna be a while though.
Yeah. All right. Do you believe that we're breeding ourselves into a circle as far as the bully community goes? That like almost like a vortex to extinction?
The extinction vortex.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, if you're very novice, you don't know what extinction vortex is. But if you are a very superior, high-level professional breeder in any breed of animal, you know what extinction vortex is. So you don't know that, go educate yourself.
Hey Siri.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
No, like that's
well,
a
it's important
thing,
because
so let's talk about that.
we are kind of in that instance. You know, when you look at like the Cocker Spaniel or any other breed that's established, the brood stock or the actual amount of dogs that are available to breed to is huge.
Yeah.
Like there's a ton of dogs. Where we have a very limited amount of dogs that we can breed to. And lots of times the most popular stud is the one that gets to breed to the majority of the bitches, right? So that can cause a problem because the more and more we inbreed, the more and more we have problems with smaller litters, unhealthy puppies, and smaller dogs. You know, the more we inbreed, the smaller the dog gets. So we need good broodstock dogs to breed outside of our lines to bring in fresh genetic information. That way we're not getting so many alleles matched up. There's recessive genes we have to deal with, you know, like you name it, heart murmurs or whatever. A dog can carry that, and lots of dogs do, but they only carry one copy. So when you breed to another dog that has no copies, then no dogs get heart murmurs.
Okay, let's get balls deep into that. What do you mean by copies? Because some of these people don't
every recessive gene has two copies, and it takes two of them to match up, just like when we had what's his name on. It takes two of them to match up for whatever that trait is to express itself. Probably the easiest comparison is like tricolored dogs. If you breed a tricolor male that has one copy of tan points, well, he actually wouldn't be tricolor. If he had a dog that carried tri, he had one copy of tan points, and you bred him to a female that carried no tricolor or no tan points, you will receive no tricolored dogs. But if you have a male that has one copy of tan points and a female that has one copy of tan points, then 50% of your litter will be tricolored and 50% of your litter will be solid. So, so that
I love genetic.
It works the exact same for every other recessive trait. It works exactly like that. So genetic testing your dogs are super important, even though, unfortunately, a lot of the recessive traits that we're trying to avoid haven't been mapped out yet.
Yeah.
So the only way we learn is by breeding.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, like you were saying the other day, then you start running into problems where, like you said, you got dogs on your yard that you've health tested and done DNA work on. And you're like, even though there's no relation in like the first 5 or 6 gens, I'm still seeing that they're fucking close. It's like the COI is fucking right here. And that's the scary part, is because it's like you were saying, we got to bring in other broodstock, but where do we go get this?
Where do we get it from?
Because it's been the same cycle since the beginning. Well, like you said, the hype dog is usually the dog that gets the most breeding done, and so therefore the gene pool is circulating through the same. Yeah,
he's top G, right? He's the Andrew Tate of the community.
So it's like it's getting to a point where the 2 times and the 3 times and all of that is putting us to a point where pretty soon everything's gonna be related, and we're gonna be in a box.
Right. Well, we're all already related. I've got a Louis V bitch, and I've got one of my studs, and these dogs have no common ancestors in 6 generations.
Yeah.
And their coefficient of relationship was 34%.
Mm-hmm.
You could look in their peds way back, and there are no common ancestors because they're carrying genes from way back in the early days when there were 15, 20, 30 dogs. So at that point, all the dogs we have today, we literally have thousands and thousands of studs we can choose from. But in essence, we all came from the same place. We all came from the same few dogs.
What do you use to compare
Embark.
COI?
Yeah, Embark does everything. They do, when I do the what they call it, matchmaker, they'll give me a coefficient of relationship and a coefficient of inbreeding.
Do you guys believe that this community, it could be all communities, but I'm talking, this is a bully show, so let's talk about this. Do you think the bully community is based off the honor system and that hurts the community, or is not based on the honor system and doesn't hurt the community?
I mean, I think when a market demands it, when people go, hey, I want a puppy off of this breeding, and they go, okay, well, I want to see the genetic tests off that puppy. That's the when the market demands it, the breeders will do it. I mean, that's just all there is to it. I don't know. Until then, you're just got people that want to breed a cleaner, more healthier dog are going to genetic test because it just gives them a leg up in that direction.
Yeah. It almost reminds me of how we are as a people right now. When you think about it, like everything is moving to fucking AI, right? Everything's moving to automation. And everybody wants amazing customer service, but they're spending money at these places that are fucking automated, right? And it's kind of bananas. And that's why one of the big reasons why, like this year, I go, okay, in order to stand out, I'm going to pick up the phone personally every single time an order comes into Shopify, and I'm going to build a personal relationship with the customer. All I've been getting every single day is like, holy shit, this is like first-class customer service. They're not even used to it. It's almost like the bully community is like going that direction. Like they want all the solutions and they want everything to happen, but they still support that shit that actually goes against what they really want.
I mean, with me, and you can ask if I use a stud outside, which I frequently do because I don't want to breed too tight.
Yeah.
So, and it makes sense to me if I have a bitch and this is her first breeding, I take her to a stud outside. I had one female I could breed to. I take her to a stud outside. Now I got 6 females I can breed to. So it makes a lot more sense. But if I'm using an outside stud, I'm going to require their Embark, or I'm not going to use them, period. I don't care if I already paid you the stud fee, but you don't ever come up with the Embark and you said you had it, I'm still not going to use it. I'll take the L. I have to see it because every dog carries some kind of recessive trait, even if it doesn't affect the American Bully. That CRD4, Embark will tell you up and down. It doesn't matter if your dog has 2 copies of that; it's not going to affect your dog.
Explain to the audience what CRD4 is.
It's a recessive defect in your vision, and it supposedly affects the dogs later in life. They start to lose their vision, right?
That's interesting because a lot of people, when they think of recessive, you just think of code.
They'll think of defects.
They don't think
of
eyes.
So CRD1
is
one of the ones that do affect the American Bully. So if you have a bitch and she has 1 copy of CRD1, you don't want to breed her to a male that has 1 copy, because then 50% of your litter is going to be a carrier, and then they have the CRD1. Those start to go blind like 6 months old. So this is something you want to avoid.
Jeez.
And the best way to avoid that is you require that DNA test, and you could say, okay, if my bitch is clear and that male has 1 copy, then I have to decide how important is that male, because I'm going to introduce 1 copy of this recessive gene into my blood, which I can get rid of in 1 generation. So I have to see how important is breeding to that stud, since he carries that 1 copy of CRD1. Something like CRD4, it's not a big deal. Who cares? It doesn't affect the dog. Embark, I've told them time and time again, and they send every time I get one of those test breedings or the matchmaker thing, if my dog does carry one copy of
Yeah.
CRD1, they'll tell, or CRD4, sorry, they'll tell me right in there, it does have one copy, and if you make the puppies, this many puppies will have it, but it doesn't affect your dog, so it doesn't matter. And, so I go by what they tell me.
I think it's like you're almost an anomaly. You fall in that 1% category when it comes to those who are breeders and creating a kennel, because a lot of people don't go the extra mile like you are to understand genetics,
right?
As deep as you do. I think that's the reason why that you always want to bring on somebody who's a genetic expert. And if you guys know anybody out there who is a genetic expert, we are looking for them to bring them on, because a lot of people.
Because the goal is I want to learn more. You know what I mean? The internet can only offer me so much.
Yep.
But someone that works with it every day, they can
Yeah.
answer some major questions that you might not be able to Google, and that helps. The thing with me is here's the thing. I'm not willing to compromise breed type. And because I stay pushing the bounds, right? Because I stay pushing the bounds, I need to make sure that I DNA test.
Yeah.
Because that will give me a leg up, and keep breeding to these dogs of heavy mass and bone. I need to be able to make sure that genetically I'm not creating something bad. So testing the dogs is the number one thing for me. I have a stack of tests at the house right now. As soon as my current litter is old enough, I'll swab every one of them and send it away.
Yeah.
What about you, Zach? Like, how deep do you get?
All mine are. I don't use Embark. I use Wisdom Panel, but they do the same thing. Yeah.
Why do you choose Wisdom Panel over
Embark?
Embark?
Wisdom Panel before I found out about Embark.
Which one do you guys feel is better? Like the more superior one? Have you guys done both? Have you took one dog and
I
done
think
both?
For me, it's kind of like
done that?
For me, it's kind of like when you look at Bullypedia versus some other.
Yeah.
It's like,
but that would be
to get the
interesting,
result.
right? If you
should get the same
DNA
result,
of the dog to both.
But what I'm saying, the reason I use Embark is because
we don't know.
the vast majority of my clients that contact me and ask me for an Embark on one of my studs are also Embark with their female. So that gives
I
them.
Want to go do it now, because neither one of y'all
that'll
done
give
it,
them the
have
ability to do that matchmaker, because my studs in Embark and their females in Embark.
Let's just say this happens, right? You guys do it, or we do it, and you get a slightly different result.
Well, I don't
Who do you
know how you could.
trust?
I mean, it's science.
Yeah, it's DNA.
Science isn't variable.
That's what I'm saying. What if it happens?
Well,
we're suing somebody.
What if the moon falls out of the sky? I mean, it's just not going to happen. So,
so you're saying both companies are equal? Is one more pricier than the other? The reason why you
I have
choose,
no idea. What's a wisdom panel test cost?
I think the last time I got one, they were like 110 bucks or something like that. $90.
Yeah.
$100,
20, 10 bucks. All them bucks.
245, 50.
I was going to say,
30,
I'm so confused on the price.
I imagine they're probably pretty comparably priced. If you are a breeder, I think it's like 129 bucks for just like one test. But I don't buy one test. I'm a breeder, so I get a discount because I buy a bunch of tests at once.
So Pumbaa, the reactive dog, says Wisdom is so much cheaper than Rogers for actually using Embark.
I don't know. I've never used Wisdom Panel, so it may be. If majority of my clients were coming to me and they were all Wisdom Panel, I would probably do that. Because I'm there for them is what I'm trying to do.
Out of the majority.
Yeah, Zach doesn't.
Yeah, we're
like
Team
Embark.
Wisdom over here. Out of the majority of people that do hit you, how many would you say actually ask for Embark?
I would say 1%.
See?
Holy shit!
So that's what you got to think of.
Oh my god!
There's a small percentage of people that actually dive that deep into even doing any of that, or really actually caring, for sides and smoke and mirrors on Facebook. But at the end of the day, when it's time and that bitch is bleeding, they're trying to get it done, and that's probably the last thing on the list that they're hey, you got the Embark.
But here's the worst part is that even if they do ask, right? A lot of people, like every once in a while, I'll have someone message me and they'll ask me for the Embark, and I'll send it to them, and they'll
Would it be fair to say that, like, as a breeder, you should say, hey, and give you a leg up, I'm going to embark any puppy that that leaves my house, just because that steps up my program one level higher than everybody who's not offering.
So it doesn't matter. Like, that's just part of it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. If you want a trustworthy breeder, at least there's one.
You're going to get an Embark regardless.
Fucking Roger.
So yeah.
Why don't more breeders do that? Do you think there's just, man, there's a lot of reputable breeders that don't do that.
Lack of knowledge.
I don't know if it's that or they just don't feel like they need to. I mean, think about this. If you breed dogs,
everybody needs to, though.
If you breed dogs, then they come out and they look okay and they don't have any problems, you would say to yourself, well, why would I need to embark them? Like, they're fine.
But it's not just genetics, right? Like, because if it's genetics that, like, for example, hip dysplasia, fucking osteoarthritis, all that shit is genetically, like, there's so many studies.
Right, but it's not mapped out, so Embark wouldn't.
Yeah, it's not going to tell you in there.
Yeah, I won't tell you that. If anything, if you wanted to spin it to the community and say, hey, you should do this, I would probably spin it as the color thing, right? Because that's something a lot of people are interested in. If we can just encourage people to start doing it just so they can determine what color their puppies are going to be, I think maybe then later we can go, hey, if you click on that health tab, you can also see this stuff.
What are you guys? I want both y'all's opinion on this, because this is from Don't Bully My Breed. What's your guys' take on Merles? How much do you love them? How much do you hate them? Rate them 1 through 10. Both of y'all. 10, you love them. 1, you can't stand them. And you can't use 7.
Let's jump into ABKC and Merle too.
I'm always say, like I always say, looking at the dog, I think they look cool. Like, it's a pretty colorway. Some of them is pretty awesome. As far as breeding it or using it in my program, no, never. There's too many issues and problems, and you got to be super careful with certain shit, and I'd rather not just play with it.
Right. So
So what's your rating? 1 through 10, you cannot use 7.
What am I rating, though?
You can definitely use 7. Just contact me. I'll hook you up.
How much you like it? No. 7's too, like, natural. That's too neutral. 7's like the safe. That's like the safe shit. I rated a 7 because I don't want to offend nobody. I don't want people to know my heart.
Everybody knows the rules.
Oh yeah, 7. Your dog, yeah.
Blotched.
He's not Merle. Right. He's a
blotched
champion.
Okay, so here's the thing. I don't. Give him a number.
I'm not letting
Give him a number.
He's got a rating.
4.3. 4.3.
No. Go, Roger.
Yeah, so pretty low on this.
Wow. 4.3.
Okay, so here's my thing. I don't have a problem with Merle at all. Like I would probably produce a Merle if, I don't know. I got other things to do right now, but later down the road I may consider it. Now, to the point of ABKC, I don't know. I've never asked anybody specifically, but I think the reason ABKC doesn't do it or accept it is because of cryptic, and I really think that's it. Okay. Because it takes genetic management to know if you bought a bitch and she's cryptic, you could actually not know she's a Merle. Okay, so the DNA traits for Merle are a little bit different than we're used to when we're talking about color. So color is kind of like on or off.
Gotcha.
That it's just that simple. Right, where Merle is actually assigned a number. So the size of the allele can be bigger or smaller as far as cryptic, as far as Merle is concerned. So you can have a female that is technically Merle, but her numbers are very low in that Merle allele, and she will not actually show that she's Merle.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. When my dad breed king pigeons, like, you would have an all white pigeon, right? But the color wasn't, they don't consider white a color. It just masks a color. So it's always interesting. You always have to figure out the underlying color of the bird. So, for example, it could be ash red, it could be recessive yellow, it could be blue, and it includes the pattern and everything. And then like AOC would be like, it'd be like all white with like a splash of color, like maybe a feather or two, or it'd be a color that had like not to get into buttholes, but around the butthole there it'd be white. So it's called any other color, AOC. But white was not a color; it just masked the color.
So where the problem arises is because it takes genetic testing to properly manage with a merle.
Yeah.
I think it's just a blanket statement by ABKC to just say overall no, because we don't know how the community is going to manage these dogs, right? So if you take that cryptic female that is technically merle but doesn't show it, and you don't know it, and you breed her to a merle male, you will get double merle. And these dogs will be blind, deaf. They can have a number of internal organ issues. It's just bad news. So I think overall they're just like, don't do it.
So based on your theory, do you feel like the ABC
there you go.
The ABKC doesn't trust the
I don't know
community?
if it's a trust thing or it's like
playing.
Are we educated enough? Yeah. Are we educated enough to this point to give that the okay?
I would say no.
Are they putting out any education? Like us over here,
right?
Brings massive value.
No, I think
like Rod,
my boy just plugged on
giving you the value for
I'm
free.
talking about True Beast Podcast Season 2.
I feel like we're getting closer to that point. I feel like ABKC's probably. I don't know. We'll have to ask somebody at some point, but I think we're getting closer to that point where we may see a merle bully in the ring in ABKC.
They're fighting for it.
I blatantly interrupt Zach. So I'm sorry, I blatantly interrupt you. What were you going to say?
Yeah.
The merle people.
Yeah. So what's your rating? What's your rating, Raj?
So what's the scale?
Zach said 3.2.
I said 4.3.
1 through 10. You cannot use 7. And I don't know about points.
Okay, but what was the question? Should
4,
we have merle in?
What is your personal opinion on merles? Do you like them versus dislike them? Rating 1 through 10.
I'm okay with merle. I'll give it a 10. I don't care. You want to breed merle, breed merle.
Wow.
But
so
do it correctly.
Zach's at a 4.
Just half-ass it. Test your dogs. Make sure you know what's going on. But as far as the color, I think the color looks cool. I don't have a problem with it.
It's a pattern.
If you literally, technically, it's a genetic defect.
Yes.
But
it's still a pattern.
Okay.
Not a
yeah. Whatever. So, but I think knock yourself out. If you can do it correctly, then do it.
That's the only reason I stay away from it. Like I said, I like them. I had a pit bull, matter of fact. I showed Stan the picture. I had a pit bull that was merle.
Yeah.
And this was 15, 16 years ago.
So
that color's that pattern's been there.
This then. All right, so you like him, you just don't do him. Do you feel, based off Rogers saying, that you are not confident enough or experienced enough to breed
This is a whole nother ball game of shit you got to pay attention to.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm not doing it right now. I mean, I've got other things to worry about. So
yeah.
But for sure, I mean, at some point, in the past, another thing was what you heard about merles is that they completely lack breed type. Like, I heard that for so long. It wasn't until the last couple of years you started seeing
there's some nice ones.
Merles with breed type, you know what I mean? But they were all like scrawny-looking, pit bull-looking things. But now we're starting to see, merles that actually have breed type.
Yeah. There's about 3 or 4 out there that are pretty well known that I'm like, man, they're kind of interesting.
And I think bred properly.
I've always told my girl, I was like, I'd have one on my yard, but just as a pet home. Like, you wouldn't be bred or she wouldn't be bred. Like, I think they're pretty dogs. The color, certain ways that they look,
Let me ask you this then, Zach. Let's just say you took 7, right? And you stripped him and he became a merle. Would you breed him?
No, I'm still not putting it in my program.
Wow. All right. Fair enough.
It's just one of those things. I think if I was to produce a merle litter, I think ethically for me, I would have to DNA test every one of them.
Yeah.
That way, the ones that don't show Merle, I could give that dog to the customer and say, here's your dog, and this dog is a cryptic Merle. Don't breed it to another Merle.
Yeah.
So at least I could give them
All
that knowledge before
One more
I hand it
question.
to the dog.
Let's just say, Zach, that you had an opportunity to own Blue and Zero in your program, and they were both Merle.
Not for breeding.
Wow.
Not for breeding.
He's capping.
No, I just
Hey,
said.
guys, is Zach capping? Put it in the comments
I
if you think
said,
Zach is capping.
I would take a Merle as a pet home, but not in my program to breed. So as a pet,
So you would pet home a Merle dog that looked like Zero and looked like Blue, back-to-back national ABKC champion.
We could revisit this subject in a year. I bet he changes his mind.
No.
You hate so. Well, touches to you, Roger, for not seeing color.
Yeah, it's not a color
or pattern. Puma, the reactive dog, agrees with Zach though, so he's got agrees with Zach.
Man.
You shouldn't take
it's
that
not really
risk
a risk
regardless. Okay.
No,
so
but how is it a risk? If you're
thing.
DNA testing, and how is it a risk? It's not a risk. It isn't. It isn't. If you're doing
good question.
Now, if you're just swinging out the fence, and you're not doing any DNA testing, then you're taking a chance, and that's not smart.
No, I mean just being honest. Like everything I just learned from Roger, just shit I didn't know about the Merle. So I just felt like I should leave it alone because I don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I respect.
You guys want to?
I respect that.
But like I said, I don't breed to it.
Where was
if I had the time to dedicate to it, then maybe I would do it. But right now, I'm just concentrating on my bullies.
And them Merle dudes, boy, they're vicious, cuz they don't play that shit, man. You gotta be prepared to be all in or sit the fuck on the bench because they go hard for the Merles.
This is a great question. 2Shaperson_Bannister asks, if you guys had successfully added everything needed for a correct bully, the only thing lacking is mass, what is your suggestion to get that added? Please include
you started out and
if
said
possible.
If it was correct, so it wouldn't need mass then. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
That's part of it. That's part of it.
Wow.
If you, and here's the other thing.
That's very true, though. Hold on. I didn't mean to. That's very true statement that Roger just said because a lot of times people want to say the dog is correct only for what reason?
Because it has
got
movement and structure.
Angulation and all that. But in order for it to be officially correct around the board, types got to be involved too.
Yeah.
Where'd he go?
Now, for that instance, let's just say, let's switch that around and say the dog has breed type, the dog has structure and movement, has everything it needs. Then where you go from there is inbreed, right? Because now you're just going to compound those traits.
Yeah.
But it takes genetic testing to make sure you're not compounding some bad recessive traits down the line. There's nothing wrong with inbreeding. It's actually great. Yeah. That's how you create this great consistency in your line is inbreeding and line breeding.
Yeah.
But there are recessive traits that you don't know about. And if you're stacking up those recessive traits, you can cause problems. So that's why I think, again, that's another one of those blanket statements they put out. Outcross. They made outcross the good thing because they knew that the majority of people lacked the fundamental understanding of how to inbreed properly.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's very true. And it's probably the biggest problem of what we see now is just lack of pure breed knowledge. And the recipe is easy. Get a dog, find another dog, take it to the vet or AI it yourself. It's simple as far as creating a dog, but when you get into it on trying to build something like what we're building, it takes a lot more fucking knowledge about what you're playing with.
I saw an interview with Dr. Hutchison, and he said the same thing. He was just like, "There's nothing wrong with inbreeding. That's how you're going to get your consistency. When every time you outcross, you lose your consistency because those alleles don't match up. You don't get the compounding those traits. So you outcross because you need fresh genetic information to help lessen the impact of those recessive genes. But understand when you outcross, you also bring in some dominant traits that you don't necessarily want, and that's why your dogs will start to lose. They'll start to lose breed type.
Yeah, I mean, you can Google it right now, and it'll tell you that over time, some of the best creatures, animals, whatever you want to call them, that we've been given, have been results of line breeding.
Yeah, tightly line breed.
Cow,
Name
horse,
one.
pig. Yeah, they just
You
like
said
they're
great.
just strictly saying that like
Cows are pretty great.
the best version of every animal that we know was created through line breeding.
Yeah.
Yeah, the inventor of the limousine cattle, which is really popular in Oklahoma and
Aren't they
Texas.
sway back?
The reason why that got so popular is just because they could accelerate butchering weight at 1,200 pounds like in 12 months.
But there's a book I posted
crazy.
it not too long ago. It was a book from back in the 40s where this guy did a lot of inbreeding, and he actually broke all that down in that book. Now it's from the 40s, so it's tough to read, but he broke all that down and how they were inbreeding cattle and other farm animals to get more consistency from their breedings.
We usually don't break down like people's programs, but I'll let you guys answer this one. What's y'all take on muscle tone blood? All of the pedigrees have its own shit this days and time. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you bred any muscle tone, Roger? What's your thoughts on
Genetic test. Make
Personal
sure
experience.
find out what the dog has, breed it out. I mean, it's just like any other dog. The dog carries something. The dog carries something. It carries 2 copies of something nasty like CDDY. Don't use it. But if you test it and it has something like CRD4, which is nothing, and you can breed it to your female and test your female. The doors are completely wide open to breed to any dog you want if you genetically test and make sure that you're not creating bad shit.
Yep.
And that's one thing about this podcast. I mean, I don't know if this was the intention or not, but if you're trying to like come on here and ask us questions about certain aspects of a kennel or a program to see if we're going to
we're trained professionals over here.
That's right. We're not going to hate on.
We don't do that sneak dissing. We don't do that sneak dissing. But at the same time, we're not going to say anything.
I mean, the only thing I would say is the same as Khan's yard. There's dogs that Khan's got that I don't like, and there's dogs that Khan's got that I like. Yeah. Same with muscle tone. There's dogs I don't like, and there's dogs that I think are pretty fucking badass. Yeah. So,
no, I keep muscle tone in my yard. Obviously, Grim Blood. I think that's no secret. I do have some Louis V, and I do have Waffle House. I mean, those are the 3 bloods that I keep in, or the 4 bloods, I guess, that I keep in my yard.
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I was just making sure you counted that right.
If we didn't see a question of yours, please put it in the question comment. We can't really scroll back because
if you put it in the question box, we're able to organize everything. Everything just flies by. We can't see.
Yeah, a lot better. And it's definitely going to get answered in most cases if it's not a repeat question.
Which is probably this subject's probably created a lot of questions.
So, do you feel like, as breeders, this generation, our generation, is soft as far as like when me and Stan were talking about earlier, certain situations and being super selective, like they would cull dogs, right? Like if it was born and there was a certain situation where it was like, oh, this is wrong or that's wrong. Do you feel like we've added more dogs to the gene pool that naturally probably wouldn't have made it? Like like when you do a C-section, all the dogs are going to make it. But
not always.
Well, not always, but you know what I mean. And natural,
babies, all kind of shit can happen.
The mom's gonna start eating the baby if it's fucked up or she feels it's weak and it's not gonna make it type shit.
Right.
I just feel like I was telling Stan, like the selectiveness, the firmness of how, like when I remember my uncle and them breeding back in the day, like he was super selective with everything. Like it was no holds bar. If it didn't cut the line, like if it didn't have everything that breed needed or it lacked or whatever, it was we're not keeping that, we're not using that, we won't breed it.
Well, here's the thing. When the puppies are in the womb, right, the mom can actually kind of control the size of the puppies, right? So if there's only 2 puppies in her belly, she'll let those puppies get bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Those puppies will get bigger. Small litters tend to be bigger.
Yeah.
Where bigger litters, you had 8 to 9 puppies in there, they're going to be smaller. And there's competition for resources. So that's why we get the runt. Sometimes we'll get a runt. It's not that there's anything wrong with that dog. It's just the fact that it just didn't have access to the resources it needed to be the size of all the other ones. So lots of times after the runt's out and you get the runt up to speed, you'll find that the runt sometimes is as big or bigger than the other pups that were big when they were born. So I don't look at it like, okay, that one's small, it's no good, because I think we need to have a longer term look at a dog before we make a final decision on what its value is.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
But yeah, if they're born with defects, that's different. Yeah.
All right, this is a question from Minivan Bully Fam. I see when people inbreed, it's usually an outcross first, then they take a daughter back to the father. What are y'all thoughts?
I mean, as far as the inbreeding, I don't have a problem with that particular scenario. And the outcross is you just need to add some fresh genetic information. I mean, you have certain alleles, and when you breed father back to daughter, you take the chance of matching those up and causing problems. The thing is if dad doesn't have any issues, then inbreed all you want. Doesn't matter. You're just going to match up. You're going to match up the shit you want to match up, and then the dogs are going to look awesome. So it's just a matter of DNA testing. If there's no issues, then go for it. There's not going to be no problem.
It's the plus side of that DNA testing, you guys.
Yeah. But the purpose of outcrossing is to introduce different genes. You know, your dog may carry one copy of a gene that is defective and have an issue, and it may cause an issue. But when you breed, you outcross, you introduce in that particular area in the genome a new set of genes, and those genes may not be defective. So your ideal situation is then to breed your dogs back to your bloodline and basically eliminate that defective gene, and by also keeping, the look that you want.
All right. This is a question for Zach. Do high rears come from breeding tall dogs with short dogs, or is it the
Let me
genes?
go look and see if that question's in there, bro.
That's right there.
Ain't no way.
K the bully. Do high rears come from breeding tall dogs with short dogs, or is it the genes?
I would think that would have a lot to do with it, in the sense like putting a super tall dog with a short dog, but it's genetic in a sense, because if the dad's got a high rear or a sway back, then there's going to be a percentage of puppies that's going to have a.
So what do you think it's top line? Let's just say you have a short dog whose phenotype looks great top line. You have a tall dog with a great phenotype, right? And great top line.
No, you're not going to get a dog that looks like
Is
that.
it not top line?
So there's a couple scenarios. I mean, one, as we all know, the bully carries the majority of his weight up front. And a lot of dogs have a lot of weight up front, I really firmly believe that it affects their bone growth. Like it takes their fronts longer to grow than it does their rears, because their rears don't have so much weight on them. So I think it has a lot to do with it. So a dog, all dogs have awkward stages. And I just feel like that's what that is. It's an awkward stage. Now, if the dog's 5 years old and it's rear high, then probably some crap. But they'll look at a 6-month-old or even a 1-year-old dog and they say, well, that dog's got a high rear. It's still growing. It's not even done yet.
So what if you took a tall dog who has a angulation that has a low rear, and you take a short dog with a low rear?
You should come out with like something that's high on both ends and low in the middle, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's just too much inconsistency.
Well, the thing is and again, we go back to genes. We go back to those odds. If this dog has a high rear and you breed it to a female with a nice top line, a high rear is not genetically dominant. So if that dog has a great front, great bone, a great head, just literally everything about him is amazing, but he has a high rear. Then you breed him to a bitch that has a good top line and only a certain, and if your bitch doesn't carry that same particular defect, what's ever causing him to have a high rear, because there's a bunch of different factors. But if she doesn't also carry that defect, then you are probably going to have a good amount of puppies that don't have high rears and have dad's mass and bone.
Yeah. Yep. I mean,
Do you think
that's something that I look for though. Like I try to stay away from I guess in a sense, a scattered pet, kind of in that sense of pheno, because I don't want that super tall dog that was 3 pets back to jump back out on me. So
Exactly.
I want to try to keep a shorter dog. Like, to me, when I'm matching pheno, like, it goes with height too. Like, I'm not just looking at it. I'm looking at height. It has to match up all the way around the board, because the goal to me is to see more consistency with every litter I drop.
Yeah. And that's, you see people that'll be like, I think this dog's paper hung, right? Because you'll look at it and this dog looks a certain way, and then you'll look back through its ped and you don't see that dog nowhere.
Yeah.
You don't see the sum of what this dog is back behind anywhere, because it's just a combination of traits from this dog and this dog and this dog.
Yeah, it's got to come back out.
It's not 50% of mom and 50% of dad only. It's 50% of mom and what is it? 12.5% of grandpa and 12.5% of grandma and 6.5% of great grandpa. So it's not like we're just looking at mom and dad. We're looking way back in the generations to determine what our puppy's going to look like. And that's why you can line breed and have 5 times something that's been outcrossed over and over again, and still that dog have a major effect on the outcome of the puppies, because added all up, all those percentages are a big percentage.
Yeah.
When you look at the AKC, right, and you look at like some of their more extreme breeds, like the Bourbeau, the French Bulldog, English Bulldog, and stuff like that, those dogs, have tendency have like more weight up front, yet they have super tight feet, even when they're just chilling and relaxed. Do you ever feel like that's ever going to come back in the bully community? Because just about even all the national champions, I've seen them sit down, they look fucking easty-westy sometimes. So, like, do you ever feel like we're ever going to get tight feet in the clean?
I think when a lot of people refer to tight feet, they refer to pit bull feet.
Yeah.
And we don't have pit bull feet.
Or Doberman.
Like, name a dog that has the. Well,
I've seen English Bulldogs, so I've seen a bunch of English Bulldogs at AKC that have super tight feet.
You got to look at the length of the toes, too.
Right. You got short toes.
Yeah. You got a dog with long toes, it's going to look splayed and spread out.
Right.
So you're saying
they shouldn't.
American
they shouldn't, but there's some.
And that's our standard?
And
they should.
So do you think that ever is going to be breeded out? Or are we chasing too much mass in the point of like the stock that is available to produce this extreme type bull breed will never allow?
That was one of the reasons I bred to the one of the studs I just used, because he had nice front tight feet.
Yeah. That's one of the things that, there are certain elements that I choose, how I choose a puppy from my litters, and long toes is one of the eliminating factors.
Yeah.
Oh, let's go to that then. Let's go to your factors when it comes to choosing a puppy, outside of big buttholes and fucking short
the butthole
toes.
obviously is a factor. Toes,
fucking butthole,
teeth, yeah,
buttholes and
teeth
toes.
spacing.
Think about that. It's deep.
As a young puppy,
teeth spacing. Okay.
Not really. It's just stuff I remember. So I'm looking at. And then, I'm looking for short muzzles and stops and all that other stuff too. But I can't hold an 8-week-old puppy to the fire when it comes to their structure, right? Because they're not even remotely even ready. And even if they are good, something environmental could happen to cause them not to be good. So it's tough at that point, and that's why I just don't get rid of dogs at 8 weeks. Like, don't even ask me about a dog until.
Yeah. That's one of my 3 factors, nutrition, lifestyle, and environment. So nutrition, lifestyle, environment, it has a genetic influence. I mean, it has an influence over genetics. You know what I mean? Like what you feed your dog has an influence over. That's why I can't stand the term just genetics, because it's not just genetics. You know, genetics is the base foundation, but you can influence that based on nutrition, lifestyle, and environment.
No, it's very true.
Get that to load. Somebody trying to call me.
Do you? What was that fucking question? Oh, it says, should we Embark test a whole litter before we sell them? Not do.
Should you?
Yeah, I thought it said do you.
I think so.
That should be mandatory.
Here's the exception. You have genetically tested mom, and she's clear. And you've genetically tested the stud, and he is also clear. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, nothing shows up in their Embark test. Mm-hmm. At that point, when you breed nothing to nothing, you get nothing. So.
Okay. All right. You know, I'm going to be devil's advocate. Let's say you have two parents that are clear, and you have a puppy who becomes an anomaly and shows something. Possible. Is that possible? Or are you saying that? Have you ever seen two parents that are both clear?
I hope so. Shit.
All right. Well, I'm just saying, dog. Yeah. I look at the community overall dogs, and I can constantly. I look at every fucking dog. And I'm like, there's something wrong.
Well, and the other issue, I think breeders.
I don't see a perfect. I've never seen a perfect American.
One of the other issues is that breeders are going to be hesitant to give their customers or their clients a DNA test because they don't understand them.
Yeah.
And if you go to a customer and you say, hey, this dog has one copy of whatever, right? That client's immediately going to freak out and be like, well, I don't want that dog. I don't want that shit, whatever. They don't realize that just because the dog's a carrier doesn't mean it has it. So you have to take the time to educate every one of your clients to say, no, this dog carries one copy of this and it doesn't affect the dog.
All right, this is a fucking great question. I want to know both of y'all's answers. I know. Okay, so I have a question. When y'all guys first started, how long you keep puppies till you make your picks? Well, I'll answer that. If you're about the breed, it ain't about selling the puppies. It's about really fucking you'll hold on to the fucking dogs however long you need. If you're looking for something to build your program off of. If you're looking to just make fucking money, people are getting rid of them in 6 weeks. So you have to look at yourself and what's your integrity, what's your vision. Are you in it for the breed or are you in it to make money? If you're in it to make money, you're going to fucking lose in the long run and you'll be out within the next 5 to 10 years. If you're in it to create a quality fucking product, you'll wait as long as it ever takes.
For me, my focus is I know it sounds weird, but my focus is just to help grow the bully community, right? So I really don't have any interest in selling dogs outright, unless it is honestly a pet home. Like it's a legitimate pet home for some reason, then I'll sell it as a pet home. But other than that, I intend to keep my puppies until they're 4 months old or whatever, get a good look at them, and then find somebody in the community that's building a program and try to get the dog to them, just so they can build their program. And try to mentor people. Like, think about this. If you're looking for a puppy, you got a guy that's, done his homework, genetically tested his dogs. He's going to hand you a dog that is as good as he knows possible that can be good. And then he's going to be there for you the entire time while you're trying to raise the puppy, get it ready to go to shows, breed the puppy, whatever. That has a ton of value. To me, it has a ton of value. So the dogs aren't cheap. They shouldn't be. If you're bringing that value to your clients, they shouldn't be cheap. Now, if you're just trying to sell them and get rid of them and make a buck, then sell them for $2,500. Nobody gone. But if you're going through all those steps, you're spending $100 and some on a puppy to do a DNA test on the puppy before you give it to your client. All that stuff costs money. Every step you do extra to make sure you're delivering the best dog you can to your clients costs money. That shit ain't free.
Yeah, no, very true, man. It's not cheap.
Well, when I was growing up, my dad was into king pigeons, and there was a specific breeder by the name of John Schroeder. Now, a Schroeder king pigeon, this guy right here, every fucking show, you couldn't beat his white pigeons and you couldn't beat his AOCs because the white and the AOC were just the dominant gene color. But no one could get his fucking genes.
Right.
Like, he would never sell any of them. You couldn't get it. And then there was some Arabs that end up getting one pair from him, right? But they spent like 20 bands for him or something like that. It was like ridiculous for where most birds go for $200, $300 was kind of like ridiculous, right? And then when he passed away, his family ended up selling all the birds, and it kind of leveled the playing field a lot. But he bred for a purpose, to dominate that fucking the ring, and you could not get a bird
really
from
the
him.
thing. If you do something that's very unique, like you guys know, I have some puppies that aren't going anywhere, and it's something so unique that for you to sell it into the community, you lost that exclusivity. Like, if you've created something that's so unique that if you sell it into the community, then you lost that exclusivity. So, I mean, that's a tough decision, because if you're breeding to create a line that's a unique look, something yours, they can look at it and say, that's one of Stan's dogs. That's tough to do when you sell a puppy to everybody that comes along, because they all have your blood.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, what do you talk? Well, then what about these main studs? And some of these same main studs, you're friends with these people in that circle, and they're just, I mean, everybody, sometimes they, a lot of people have access to these bloods. And when you look at it right now, we're kind of bred into that breeding. We've bred ourselves into almost a extinction vortex, as UI has mentioned. Like,
no,
so are you going the opposite direction?
Like, if you want to use my stud, that's one thing, because you're using it on your female. What I'm saying is, like, a breeding of my stud into my program with my females. You know what I mean? That's creating something different. So if I sell a female out of my program to someone else, I have to make sure that's someone that's I can trust. You know what I mean? Because those breeding females are important to me. So I'm just not interested in just selling the dog outright to someone and be like, hey, yeah, go do whatever you want.
Yeah, no, that's probably something a lot of people don't really think about, though.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
To be honest.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's exclusive for one, so it raises your value. And then I feel like nobody, I mean, I didn't sell everything I kept 2 dogs that I wanted that further my program, and the rest were pet home for that specific reason. Like, I felt like I needed to keep what I was trying to build under control and not let it get out before. So, like, if I let it get out and everybody's got it and ruin it before I get what I'm trying to do done, then it's like, oh, well, shit, fuck, it's already fucked up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, pet home is the best way. Yeah. If you want it, honestly, if you were going to create something exclusive and you said, I'm going to breed this dog to this dog, it's never been done before, and I'm going to keep what's off of it.
Yeah.
And then, so you pick what you want, and then when they're old enough, you take them to the vet, you have them fixed, and then you sell them as pets. Now you're the only one that's got it.
Yeah. Skipper 3131. Go to xdog.com. V3.5 is about to drop. Get one of those. And if you don't know what size you need,
there you go. Get you one of them X-Dog vests.
Well, let's do some closing thoughts, man. Let's do some closing thoughts on tonight. So, Roger rated the ABC community, or the
ABKC.
C.
How long you been in this shit?
I'm having a hard time.
He just wants to start singing.
I keep thinking of Boys to Men, ABC, BBC. Fuck, man. And then Zach rated it a B-. Zach rated it actually higher right now than
maybe my A is Roger, more stringent than his A. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Like A is like goal, absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you guys, okay, that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, so if you're trying to have your dog exclusive, then it's
That's right.
exclusively
Yep.
breed for yourself.
But you don't make no money that way, so just be prepared.
Yeah, nah. Real talk.
Stan secretly wants border collies.
Yeah, I kind of do, really. They're fucking smart dogs. I'm actually looking for another dog, too, so
Exactly.
we'll see. Border Collie's
Well,
pretty
apparently that's their
intense
ABCA
dog, but
is a border collie thing.
I kept trying to spell out abracadabra. I don't know what the fuck y'all talking about,
Whatever.
But
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah, for
this
sure.
was a great show, man.
So
tonight.
just
So
for you guys, I'll say
y'all,
something if you guys don't mind. Make sure you share the show. If you're listening, just take a moment, share the show for us. We have got literally planned
Yes.
out. We've got a lot of people coming on the show that
Yeah.
are going to bring huge value.
Well, let's name next week. Who's next week? Who's next week?
OG Papa Pitt.
Papa Pitt, right? Yeah,
Papa
Pitt. OG Papa Pitt.
Yep.
But we got a ton of people coming after that, and they're all bringing value. They're all experienced people. They're all bringing value. There's something that you're going to want to learn from these people. I promise you. This isn't just like bullshit guests. Like they're not going to come in here and just talk shit. They have
free
like
seminars
a
and
real world experience.
And Zach is actually working on the True Beast podcast website, so you guys can be able to stay tuned on all the future guests because we're working diligently on a bunch of different guests. And then tomorrow, me and Zach are actually starting the first Team X Dog True Beast podcast where I'm going to be basically answering everything about the X Dog Vest. I know you guys come on here and ask some questions about that, but we kind of want to save that for another show because we're working on X Dog University and we want to save those questions for there. And then, of course, our resident veterinarian and animal chiropractic school owner, Dr. O, will be on the 19th? I think next Thursday. So next week is a big deal. We got some OGs. We got Papa Pitts and Dr. O coming on.
And we're not
week.
just inviting people that agree with us. I'm actually going out of my way to invite people that might not necessarily think the way I think because I want their perspective on things also.
And I'm going to push them to make sure that they go.
I'm professional.
Come on and say, 100%. I don't agree with that.
I'm professionally trained.
Yeah, future X-Dog app. Yes, working on X-Dog University. That will be the X-Dog app. And if you notice, I've been doing a lot more reels on how to utilize the products and stuff like that. But again, man, we just try to bring you guys a lot of value and stuff. Tonight, I didn't do a giveaway because, I just really felt like I talked. And I was like I really want to just kind of see who our core audience is. Is people just coming in to listen to get free gifts, or did they actually find value in this? And it sounds like you guys are finding value, so be sure to tune in next week because I will be giving away some stuff for Papa Pitt, or we will be giving away some stuff for Papa Pitt's episode. So
share it.
But man,
that's how you pay
other than that, man, we love y'all. And make sure you guys come in next week and see who has a better mindset, either Zach or Roger, and who has a better vision when it comes to
Team